Another huge series win for the Toronto Blue Jays. They put up 24 runs over 3 ball games.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is right around the corner. Visit FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. As always, I'm Brayden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Brayden5Iwasco, Carter First 2 as well on our main Twitter account at Locked On Jays. As well, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you're new here to YouTube and you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. You guys get your podcasts, your shorts, your live streams, your videos, and it's all free. It's all free. Just hit that subscribe button. Easy enough to do so. A lot to get into. Big weekend series. The Toronto Blue Jays are able to pull out the series win over the first 2 games pretty much. That third game did not go their way as they dropped the third game 10-4 against the Rangers. But they have a big second game. And the first one, well, we got a lot to talk about. I think one of the biggest milestones in a player's career happened in that first game. So we'll get into all of it. And then, of course, we'll tee up the next series against the Pirates towards the end of the episode. So make sure you guys stick around for that. But Carter, my man, I don't know if we need to pop champagne. I don't know if we need to throw a party. Alejandro Kirk has a stolen base.
And we always did that thing before the season started, as we always did our predictions for the players in the season. And a lot of the times we threw in Alejandro Kirk over under half a stolen base. I don't think we did it this year, but we definitely did it the year before. And I think we both had it over. Obviously, it didn't happen last year, but Alejandro Kirk showing off the speed as the 8th slowest player in all of baseball, but steals his first career base, standing ovation. There's guys bowing down to him. I was pretty much doing that as well. So much fun. And especially after he has an unbelievable game. Has 4 RBIs in the game, a home run, obviously the 2 RBI single to put the Blue Jays up in that game. Such a fun weekend of baseball. Such a fun weekend in our personal lives as well. But had a big golf tournament, Brayden's birthday. So again, happy belated birthday to Brayden as well. But just an unbelievable weekend. It always sucks losing the third game of a series because you have that little bit of a bitter taste in your mouth. Also did not win a golf tournament this weekend, so a little bit of bitter taste in my mouth from that as well. But in totality, the Toronto Blue Jays started the weekend up 5 games on the division. They have ended the weekend up 5 games on the division, and they still remain half a game up in the entire American League. So when we look at the schedule right now, if nothing changes and we continue to lose games and just knock games off the schedule and the Toronto Blue Jays remain in the same spot, that's exactly what we want. They can't do any better right now unless you want the best record in baseball. But in the grand scheme of things, that doesn't really matter. It's just about the American League. But it was such a fun weekend of baseball, and Alejandro Kirk was definitely a big part of that.
Oh, yeah, was he ever. And you know what? I got to start here because I had so many people asking me how upset I am. And I know when the NHL does this as well, people get very upset. The Apple TV games, dude, I want to talk about it. It sucks. We had to go through some different means to watch that Friday game because me and you both don't have Apple TV because I'm not paying for Apple TV to watch a baseball game here and there. It is absolutely criminal, and it sucks to be a fan of a team when they play on an Apple TV game.
Especially because that was one of the best games of the year. You get an 8th inning comeback. It's a hit parade in the 8th inning. And, of course, Apple TV does get that game. My dad absolutely hates Apple TV, and I completely understand it. It's just one of those things that you just have to buy another thing to watch a Toronto Blue Jays game. Obviously, there is different means to watch these baseball games, but I just don't really like anything about Apple TV. It's a Friday night game. You're excited for it. I was at work. I was trying to turn on Sportsnet, and then I realized that it was an Apple TV game. I had to stream the game on my phone, was watching it, and luckily I had the stream available for the people that were unable to watch that game. It sucks because you see how electric it was. You see what happened in the 8th inning. You see that Chris Bassitt was battling the entire game. Alejandro Kirk steals a base. If you miss that, that's the one Apple TV game that you might miss because, again, a lot of people aren't going out and buying Apple TV. So if you miss that, I would be pretty pissed off. I wouldn't be too happy because I would want to see Alejandro Kirk firing around the bases. Maybe the next level up for Alejandro Kirk, I want to steal third. Let's see if he can really get the boost moving and take a base at third base there. But yeah, just Apple TV, just probably the loser of the weekend, unfortunately.
Yeah, if we had to give a big thumbs down to something, it would be Apple TV. My mom was asking me the same thing. She was trying to watch the game. She goes, why isn't the Jays game on TV? Like, am I wrong? Is there not a game? So I'm like, no, it's Apple TV. And yeah, the disappointment in her voice was not thrilled. So anyway, back to ball. Obviously, huge game in that first game. I mean, the ability to pull that one out, sort of from what you expected or thought was going to be the jaws of defeat. You're able to get that done, and that's just what we've seen from this team in and day out. The ability to come back in ball games. Last year, we talked about it. If this team was down, they were pretty much down and out. This team was done. This season, you can never turn the TV off because you never know what's quite going to happen. And it all starts in that first game, Carter. And yeah, I think that set the table for the second game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because they absolutely steamrolled the Texas Rangers in that second game. But it was one of those things that was set up pretty well for the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are very good at coming back from behind in a baseball game, and the Texas Rangers love giving up leads. They've done that a ton of times this year. In top three in baseball in giving up leads. That could be late innings. That could be scoring around the first inning, then blowing that. But if you're up in a baseball game, you tend to want to try to keep that lead. The Texas Rangers aren't very good at doing that. And yeah, it's a little bit of a momentum builder. You try not to take too many things, again, from the day-to-day, especially if things don't necessarily go bad. But if the vibes are high and the momentum is going for your baseball team, especially at the Rogers Center, the Toronto Blue Jays are the best team in baseball at home. The Rogers Center is a lot of teams' hell, to be completely honest. A lot of teams Achilles heel. They do not want to go to the Rogers Center, and for good reason, because the fans are amazing. We've seen that time and time again, especially recently. During the week, you're getting 40,000 plus fans. Absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, it's just a fun time in Toronto Blue Jays land, and just continuing on what they've been doing all season. You get the production from all over the place. You got guys that you didn't even expect to be here. Addison Barger, David Schneider. We say it every single episode because these guys are absolutely insane. But one guy I do want to actually point out for his performance as well is Chris Bassitt. Maybe not one of those guys that you'll be looking at from this game, but absolutely battled against the Rangers lineup. Not the most prolific lineup in terms of offense, but Chris Bassitt threw his entire arsenal at the Texas Rangers in this game through 8 pitches. Through the sinker, the four seam, the cutter, the curveball, the sweeper, the splitter, the slider, and the changeup. So whatever he had available, he was throwing it at this Texas Rangers lineup. Gives up a home run earlier on in the game, is able to battle back. And if you're going to give me 5 innings of 3-run ball, I am definitely going to take that, especially like we were just talking about, the Toronto Blue Jays' ability to come back in a baseball game. As long as you're not giving up those massive spots, kind of like what Jose Berrios did, unfortunately, in that third game, which we'll talk about. As long as you keep this team in the game, if it's like a 2-3-run game, the Blue Jays are going to have a pretty good chance of coming back. So yeah, shout out to Chris Bassitt for the grittiness that he displays pretty much every single time he does take the mound. But yeah, shout out to the Hound on the mound.
Yeah, honestly, there was a lot of really good takeaways from game one. I think the one thing that I looked at here was I think this is the first time we've seen Louis Varland falter. And it is just giving up 1 run. It's not the end of the world, obviously. But it's at least something to keep an eye on. I think a lot of us have been talking really, really highly of Louis Varland, and I think in good order. I don't think this is a time where we see Louis Varland go out there and give up 1, and we're all like, oh my goodness, well, maybe he's not the guy we thought he was. No, this guy is really good, and pitchers are going to be beaten. Sucked that it was this game, but the team was still able to rally and end up winning this game. So, yeah, not his best outing. Obviously gave up the 1, but sort of what are you going to do?
Yeah, like you're going to have some hiccups, and Louis Varland had another hiccup later on in this series as well. He's been very good. Yeah. Like we've kind of seen this with Jeff Hoffman. We're going to talk about him coming up as well, is that he had a few bad outings, walked a million guys against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Since then, he's been absolutely unbelievable. And I'll just go into that now since we're on the Jeff Hoffman topic anyway. It's been absolutely insane what this guy has been doing his last 3 starts. Again, it is a very small sample size, but this is what Jeff Hoffman's kind of been doing all year. Maybe not up to this level with the strikeout stuff, but he has, the odd blow up here and there, and then he'll go on a run for 2-3 weeks where he's very good. And those blow ups, again, will affect that ERA. We've talked about that a bunch on this podcast. ERA, maybe a little bit of a misleading stat when it comes to the closing pitchers. But Jeff Hoffman, since that Los Angeles Dodgers outing, he has thrown in 3 different games, 3 innings pitched. He's given up 1 hit. So he's gotten 9 outs. 8 of them are strikeouts. This guy's been absolutely dominant. The slider is all the way back. He's using that a little bit more. The fastball is playing. He's locating, which is nice to see. The splitter is obviously a good touch to add to that as well. It's really fun to watch him, especially over this last stretch, because he's literally striking out everybody. It doesn't look like opposing hitters have a chance when they are up to the plate. And this, like, 2 of those outings against the Chicago Cubs, one of them against the Texas Rangers. I know the Rangers offense isn't that good. Chicago Cubs offense, they rank in top 5 in a lot of categories. Maybe not the hottest team since the All-Star break. These aren't bums that Jeff Hoffman is going against once again on all of these high pressure situations. A 1-run game in the first game of the series as well. And just, takes over a game exactly like you want your closer to do. And that's why for us, we said maybe it's not as black and white as Jeff Hoffman's being rolled out there every single time, but I still have the utmost confidence that Jeff Hoffman is going to go out there every single time that he does go out there and give the Toronto Blue Jays a very good chance to win that game.
Yeah, and that's exactly sort of what we were saying when we had the big discussion about Hoffman and that bullpen or the closing role, right? And that's why I think we both tossed our hat in the ring for him and said that he's still the guy because he is the guy that could go out there and get you 3 straight Ks and, set everybody down. But he's going to have the off day just like any other pitcher. It's just his is on a different stage. His is where everybody notices if he has a bad day, whereas some bullpen guys maybe you don't think about, throughout the ball game. But everybody's watching him. The fans are on their feet looking to get out of that ball game. And if it doesn't go well, who's the one guy they blame? Hoffman, because he's the one that possibly gave up the run. So it's a very interesting conversation, and it is very polarizing. People will get upset, and others are going to be happy with him and understand the bigger picture with Hoffman. So I don't know. I totally understand where you're coming from as a fan if you are upset with Hoffman in some of these situations, because don't get me wrong, I am too. But I think in the bigger picture, who do you want out there closing a ball game in the playoffs for you? It's probably Hoffman. So there you go. Carter, a lot more to get into. Obviously, we got game 2, game 3, and
I got one more last thing to end off, kind of wrap up game 1 here. I just wanted to go a little bit more depth into that 8th inning. Just some unbelievable at-bats. Maybe some calls in the Toronto Blue Jays' favor as well. When you look at that Vladdy walk call, maybe that's a strike at the top of the zone. Daulton Varsho, that's a very good pitch on the outside corner as well. Good take, but you will definitely take those walks as Toronto Blue Jays fans. Andres Gimenez, I've been a very big guy. I've been an Andres Gimenez hater. I'll just completely say that, especially what he's been doing offensively. But he's gone on a little bit of a run recently, getting those singles, being hit at the bottom of the order where he should be, not like he was at the start of the season being cleanup. That was absolutely ridiculous. But it's been pretty good from Andres Gimenez. If you can get just that production where he's going to have those scrappy at-bats, maybe get the pitcher's pitch count up, get that single, especially to roll over to the top of the order, that's going to lead to a lot of success for this Toronto Blue Jays team, especially when you got Bichette as one of the best hitters with runners in scoring position. But David Schneider pinch hit. He gets on as well. Bichette, a very good at-bat, singles to center. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Again, I probably want him being a little bit more aggressive, especially in a big moment like that, especially with how hot he's been since the All-Star break, one of the best hitters in the major leagues since the All-Star break. That's another completely separate topic because maybe I love seeing second half Vladdy, but can we get this for, a little bit larger of a sample size? Maybe start it, halfway through the year instead of waiting until the last 50 games. So a very good time to get hot, obviously. And then Alejandro Kirk. I mean, just the game of Kirk. Yeah, a beautiful swing, a single up the middle, and then obviously the stolen base. But it just shows the team's resiliency, especially when you're down 3-0 in the game. You score 2, and then you get a reliever coming in. Louis Varland gives up a moon ball to Marcus Semien. You're down 5-2 again. A lot of teams would have been deflated. A lot of teams would have been defeated in that moment. Toronto Blue Jays storm back, score 4, and they end up winning that game and end up winning the series. So a very big moment and something to be very positive about, especially if they are down in a playoff scenario. That the Toronto Blue Jays will have the ability to come back.
Yeah, Carter, that's, exactly the sentiment that we have been talking about all season long that makes this ball club different from the ball club of the last couple of years is the bats and just their ability to heat up in a ball game, their ability to produce in big situations. Whereas in years past, you're thinking, wow, bases loaded and it's 2 straight outs or something. So it's huge for this ball club. But Carter, a lot more I want to get into, obviously, with game 2 and game 3, still a lot of talking points and a series preview. So stick with us right after this break.
Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up and college football isn't far behind. Whether you've got your eye on big name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get into the game. It is that fantasy season. As you guys know, myself and Brayden are big fantasy guys. We're going to be in a ton of leagues this year. We were already doing mock drafts this weekend. So we're already bickering about who we like, who we don't like, some of Brayden's picks, some of my picks, some of our friends' picks as well. So we've really been using Prize Picks. We try to put our money where our mouth is. A lot of the time we have buy-ins in fantasy, but so that's over a full season. We like to have those, little bit of microdoses. We want to make some picks every single week. So we use Prize Picks to bet on the guys and pick the guys that we believe are going to be good in fantasy as well, to have a little bit of bragging rights and a little bit more money in our pockets. You can download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
So, Carter, just continuing on here. Talking about game 2, and I mean, we could talk about game 2, I swear to God, for hours, because this was such a explosive game from the offense. But not only for the offense, Carter, another huge shutout from the guy that's been doing it all season long, Eric Lauer. The Lau Show shows up once again. A lot of guys I could talk about, but I think starting with him, you just have to, because how good this guy has been all season, Carter.
Been a lot of fun watching Eric Lauer play for this baseball team, especially the position they were in earlier in the season. Now there's a little bit more reinforcements around, so Eric Lauer's still been dominant and been probably your most consistent starting pitcher this entire season. One thing I liked with Eric Lauer in this game is that we've tended to see John Schneider kind of cap his pitch count around 70 pitches, around 80 pitches. In this game, again, maybe you didn't get the length you necessarily wanted from Eric Lauer, but he threw 102 pitches. He really got extended. He really got stretched out. He has had that in the tank, I think, for a while now, obviously, but it seems like when Eric Lauer gets around to the third time of the order, John Schneider kind of doing what they used to do with Ross Stripling a little bit. It's twice through the order, get through. Maybe the third time if things are going really well and you're being efficient. But I think what he's trying to do is, again, set Eric Lauer up for success and only do it 2 times throughout the order. At this point, I think Eric Lauer has definitely earned himself the leash to, go through that third time. But I mean, I guess you don't mess with something, you don't fiddle with something that's not broken. That's already working for your baseball team. So whatever John Schneider is doing with Eric Lauer, I'm not going to really complain about any of it, because it has been a whole lot of fun to watch. And one of the reasons that the Toronto Blue Jays, have put themselves and turned themselves into this point where they are in this season. I guess the big storyline probably wouldn't be Eric Lauer's pitching. You get a little bit of run support in this game. But yeah, shout out to Eric Lauer for continuing to do it on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I knew as soon as we started talking about the offense that we'd end up just talking about the offense. And you got to give the guy a shout out, especially with that season that he's having.
Actually, I got one more pitching stat here, I guess. Tyler Heineman, man. Absolutely. Yep. A big play by Heineman. Rowdy Tellez throws a pitch at George Springer. What does Tyler Heineman do? He throws at their guy. You can't hit George Springer, especially coming back from an injury, even though, it's a 55-mile-an-hour pitch. But Tyler Heineman has a pretty good outing as well. Does give up a run. It says it's an earned run. I don't care. I'm just, scratching it out for Tyler Heineman just because of what he's done for the Toronto Blue Jays. But yeah, it's always weird to see, especially on the other side. Rowdy Tellez pitches 2 innings for the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, wild.
That's a little bit crazy seeing him go 2 innings for 1 and for 2. The Blue Jays are up in this game and Tyler Heineman's pitching. So that just shows the confidence, I guess, that they have maybe in Tyler Heineman, and then the defense obviously backing him up as well.
Yeah, sort of crazy, but hey, you got to save bullpen arms when you can save them. So good on the Blue Jays realizing that they could throw a guy out there. I think interesting play. You don't see that a ton when a team is up, but hey, if it works, it works. And Heineman's just gross apparently. But I want to start it here. George Springer's first game back. He does get on the board with a hit. I know George Springer can do it, right? Obviously, we'll talk about him in game 3 as well. And I know he can get out there and make a difference. Doesn't matter about the injury, but I think there's always a little bit of a concern with the guy coming back from injury. You're right. Having a little bit of time off, trying to get healthy again, and then trying to, keep that magic that you've had for the rest of the season. I think it's always a little bit in question when guys do miss time from injury, but you've seen it with George Springer, Kirk, Varsho, all these guys who have missed time, and you think, oh, are they going to come back just as they were? Apparently, yes, with this team. Everybody comes back just like they left. It's a really, really good sign to see from this ball club.
Yeah, the hitting is contagious with the Toronto Blue Jays dugout, the Toronto Blue Jays lineup, and it's like the vibes are at an all-time high. Everyone seems to love each other on the Toronto Blue Jays, and Myles actually had a comment on the Toronto Blue Jays season and got to go into his, obviously, game after this quote here, though. But he says, I talked to the guys about how special this team is, how great the city is. It's been a blast here. I love this place. I love the people. I love everything about it. I don't take a day for granted here. I love everything about it. I think Myles Straw might like where he is now in his landing spot with the Toronto Blue Jays. And then, I mean, career day from Myles Straw, but that really goes to show just the vibes in that clubhouse. You see that every single time, it's whether it's Kirk in the home runs, Varsho, Vladdy, whoever it ends up being, everyone's, very excited in the dugout, big smiles on their faces, and they're hanging out outside of baseball as well. These guys are golfing together. These guys are playing cards. These guys are having a good time. Ernie and Davis are probably still living together. You don't hear about that as much, but they're hanging out all the time. Davis Schneider, Myles Straw walked out of one of their games, and Myles Straw was wearing Davis's jersey, and Davis wearing Myles Straw's jersey. So the vibes are at an all-time high, and that's what you want for a ball club. If the team and the players are saying this team is special, why shouldn't we also believe that this team is special? But Myles Straw, since we're on the topic, my goodness, dude, this guy is absolutely insane. Just thinking about the trade when it happened, we knew exactly what it was for. It was for Roki Sasaki to get that international bonus pool money to try to go out and make a splash. Roki Sasaki, I know this comes with a little bit of animosity behind it, but I'm just early saying he's a bum. I don't want that guy on my baseball team anyway. He would have ruined the vibes. That guy's a bum. Give me Myles Straw, who has a 2 home run, 5 RBI game, and everyone seems to absolutely love in that Toronto Blue Jays dugout.
Yeah, it's sort of a weird turn because I know we all weren't thrilled about it. We understood why they were doing it, but to take on a contract like that, you're sort of like, oh my goodness, what are these guys doing here? Are they just spending money to spend money? That's sort of the feeling it was. And you know what? It works out. Obviously, we got to give Ross some type of credit for all these weird little moves he's been making that turn out. It's very, very strange to say that, but in a season going this well, you got to give credit where credit's due. And I don't know how much of that you could say was Ross Atkins knew Myles Straw was going to be unbelievable, but it works out for the best. So huge shout out to Myles Straw. But Carter, another guy I got to give a huge shout out for, and we've already talked about him a little bit. Not only on the offensive side of the ball, but the defensive side of the ball as well. My boy, the guy who I have 2 jerseys of, Davis Schneider. I've been a Davis Schneider fan since he's come to the team. Hard not to be off that start, but I've stuck with him. And man, what a difference a year makes for a player, right? It is crazy. The defensive leaps he's taken in left field is extraordinary. Some of the catches that guy makes is unbelievable. And then, even in this game, he goes 3 for 4. I don't know. The guy keeps surprising me every time I look the other way.
Well, and there was some discussion that Davis Schneider might be sent down to the minor leagues, especially with George Springer coming back. Unfortunately, that was Joey Loperfido. There's not really a guy that I'd be comfortable sending down. So whoever it was going to be God damn, we're not going to be seeing that guy anymore. But Davis Schneider's been leading off for this baseball team. He's been hitting second for this baseball team. His OPS is off the charts. He's smashing left-handed pitching. I'm almost comfortable saying that I could throw him in there against righties. But there's just so many players on this team that are so good in so many different scenarios that, again, you got to have to share the love a little bit. But yeah, shout out to Davis Schneider. I was as close as anyone could be to writing him off. I think I was right on that edge, but Davis Schneider pulled me all the way back in. I think that's why you try not to get too emotional about whether it's a really good season, whether it's a really bad season. You got to kind of see the overlying picture. And that's what we talked about with Bichette as well, is that, hey, don't look at, one bad year, look at his career. With Davis Schneider, it's a little bit harder to do that because it's not as big of a sample size. But with these younger players, especially, as in Barger being another one, you got to give these guys a little bit of a chance, give them some run. There's going to be some growing pains, especially in the major leagues. It's pretty hard to hit a baseball on a consistent basis. So I think you got to give these guys a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt. I've definitely been one of those guys that's been a little bit too hard on people. I'm sure you have as well. I'm sure everybody watching this has gone a little bit too crazy with a take here and there, but that's the fun of baseball. It's a little bit of an emotional sport. You want to get fired up about the Toronto Blue Jays, and that we definitely do that, in our daily lives and on this podcast as well.
Yeah, Carter, you know what? The fun that this baseball team has had and given me this season, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've felt like this for this baseball team. You go into work, you're talking with your buddies, and instead you maybe don't even bring it up because the team's playing bad. But this year, it's like we were together with the whole huge group of guys this weekend for that golf tournament, and we were chatting Blue Jays just anytime you were available. If you saw a guy or the game was on and we're chatting it out, we were at my parents' place. And that whole night, I think I had 26 baseball conversations talking about the Jays. So it's a ton of fun. It's a great time to be a Jays fan. But Carter, I did want to get into a few other guys. I mean, another guy that you can't forget about is Daulton Varsho. What he's been able to do in his limited playing time. If this was in a whole season, we might be saying that Daulton Varsho is one of the best players in baseball. He's got 13 home runs in 30 games. It is unbelievable what this guy's doing. So huge shout out, Daulton Varsho. You know what? I know you're a huge Daulton Varsho guy. You got his jersey. I'm right there with you. I'm a huge fan of Daulton Varsho.
I mean, how can you not be? Just an unbelievable baseball player. We talked about his defense all the time. Like, that's just a given. Like, your defense isn't going to fluctuate on a day-to-day. Like, the power is just ridiculous. And again, you give this guy a full sample size. Maybe it doesn't happen. Obviously, he's putting up video game numbers. But if you give him that full sample size, he's just shy of 60 home runs. It's that ridiculous with Daulton Varsho. It's absolutely insane what he's doing as well. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. starting to hit the ball pretty hard as well. George Springer on pace for around 30 home runs. So you're starting to see a little bit more of the power from a lot of these guys. And that's why, again, the narrative I think it was just, it wasn't the majority of the fan base. I think the majority of the Toronto Blue Jays fans know how good Daulton Varsho is. But there were a few people, and we talked about it on the podcast, we're just seeing a lot of tweets about it, that were saying Daulton Varsho should be a defensive replacement.
That was insane.
Is absolutely wild to say for a guy that's already has 13 home runs on the year and his limited amount of at-bats and limited amount of playing time. This team needs pop. This team needs that power bat. They have all the contact in the world, and Daulton Varsho being that left-handed power bat to pair with Aston Barcher makes this lineup so much deeper. And this is all being done without the guy that was supposed to come in and easily hit 30 home runs in Anthony Santander. So it's just crazy, again, how this team has gotten to this point with all the, the little signings that Ross Atkins has made, the performances, everyone seemingly to be overachieving other than the select few guys on the Toronto Blue Jays roster. Yeah, it's just, it's a lot of fun when you just don't really know who is going to be that guy to provide the spark in any given moment.
And you know what, Carter? A 606 slugging for Daulton Varsho. 606.
Yeah,
like,
that's
is
a little nuts.
Like, I feel like I'm on rookie mode on MLB The Show, and I'm just sitting there teeing off.
Yeah, Daulton Varsho's PCI covers about 3/4 of the strike zone right now. So that guy's absolutely sending balls into oblivion, and I'm here for it. Daulton Varsho home runs are some of my favorite home runs that we will ever see. But Vladimir Guerrero Jr., again, I want to keep talking about this guy because we were pretty hard on him earlier, just with his performances. I want to check on his home run numbers. I think he's up to 9 home runs already since the All-Star break. He has 21 home runs in the season. I believe it was 12 before. What have we played? 25 games? And this guy has just seeming like a home run every other baseball game. Hit another one in the last game of the series. I think it was 435 feet, just casually. Absolutely love to see it. And this is the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. that we need in the playoffs. We need this guy to be that run producer, that driver of the baseball, the guy that is going to hit a home run in that clutch situation. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is starting to catch fire, and it is a lot of fun because it's not just Vladdy. It's Bo, it's Springer, it's Varsho, it's literally I think everyone's hot in the lineup right now. Is there a hitter right now that's not really having a good stretch? Maybe Ernie Clement a little bit recently, but off the top of my head, I can't really name a guy that's not hitting the ball very well. Maybe Barger, that might be another one.
Yeah, you could throw Barger in there. He's not the same guy that we saw a little bit earlier on, but this is a guy that has been so good and still very young, and wasn't playing every day. So this is a guy that's going to go through a little bit of ups and downs. So
yeah, it's not great for Addison Barger in the last little bit. I'm just looking at the stats now. In the last 7 games specifically, 174 average, an OPS of under 500. Again, the young player, like we just said, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Last 15, this OPS is 650. So he's going to work through some growing pains. But that's why Daulton Varsho's back. Now, if you want to kind of, give Addison Barger, relieve the pressure a little bit and put him down farther in the lineup, I still want Addison Barger in my lineup because you've seen what he can do with the baseball. But now with Daulton Varsho, the way he's playing, like if you want to hit him 5 instead of Addison Barger and maybe put Barger 7, that's something that the Toronto Blue Jays team can do. So there's so much flexibility that this team can do with the lineup.
Yeah, and I think that's a big component that I know we've talked about a lot is the ability to play almost guys up and down and platoon guys in different spots in the order. That's massive. With the ability to ride the hot hand, that's a very fun thing to be able to do. And if John Schneider is doing his job correctly, this team can succeed. And so far, I think you have to admit that John Schneider's been making a pretty solid lineup. Tough not to be when everybody's hitting, but shout out to him. It's great. Carter, we do want to get into game 3 just before, obviously, we do hit the series preview as well. This one didn't go the Toronto Blue Jays way, and I think it all starts with the absolute, I have to say it, it's a horrible day from Jose Berrios. The guy gives up the most amount of hits in his career in a start. It just wasn't good at all, Carter. Not good.
Yeah, not ideal whatsoever. And for a discussion that we seem to have almost every single podcast, at least try not to have, but it's just the main thing going on in Toronto Blue Jays land is the starting rotation. Who's going to be your playoff starters again when Shane Bieber comes back? which should be, it's looking like Friday. So that's going to be something to keep your eyes out on, that Miami Marlins game on the Friday. Very excited for that. But what do you do with Jose Berrios or Chris Bassitt or Eric Lauer, or whoever it ends up being? Jose Berrios is being that guy right now. It's pushing himself out of that starting role. Maybe it's the Phantom IL stint for a guy that is an Iron Man that hasn't missed a start in his career. It's kind of hurting this ball club right now. Like, he didn't give the Toronto Blue Jays a chance to win baseball games. And that's what we look for a starting pitcher. You want to keep the Blue Jays in, because like we talked about in the first segment, if it's 2-run games, a 3-run game, all it takes is, the odd, maybe it's a walk and then an infield hit, whatever it is. The Toronto Blue Jays are a scrappy baseball team. They have the ability to come back quickly. It can just happen at a snap of fingers. Jose Berrios not able to do that, gives up multiple home runs again in this game. That's kind of a given for Jose Berrios. It's just a conversation that's trending in the wrong direction if you're a Jose Berrios supporter.
Yeah, it is. And it's frustrating to watch too. I mean, you give up 10 hits in 4 1/3, 6 runs. He only gets 2 Ks, gives up 2 long balls. Again, we know Jose Berrios does give up the long ball, but and it's okay if it's 1 a game and it's a 1 or 2 run shot and that's it. But the problem is when you're giving up 2 home runs with 10 hits allowed, that's just not going to cut it. And I'm not going to sit here and bash him, because I think this is a conversation we're going to be having for the next month and a half until the playoffs, is who's going to be where. And I think we got lots of time to cover all of that. I don't know, Carter. I know people are going to have their opinions, and we're welcome to hear them about Jose Berrios, and the pitching staff as a whole. We love to hear from you guys, because it is a very interesting situation of what this Toronto Blue Jays team is going to have to do. But in saying that, Carter, I do want to talk about a couple more things on the offense in Game 3, and it just has to do, for me, is George Springer, his second game back from injury, and he goes yard. I just think, I talked about this earlier, obviously, but the ability for guys to come back off injury and still, it looks like they don't even miss a beat. And I think that's so massive for this team's success, is because I think that has to be the biggest worry when you see George Springer get hit in the head with a fastball. I think I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy's had an amazing year. And is this going to be sort of what stops that, right? Even if he does come back, is he going to be as good? Well, turns out, yeah, it looks like this guy doesn't look like he missed a day at all.
Well, that's the thing. When you get hit in the head with a fastball, that's going to ring your bell, obviously. You got to think, it's got to be in the back of your head. It's like, hey, did George Springer forget how to play baseball? Like, he's so severely concussed, maybe doesn't even know, what day it is. The Toronto Blue Jays are in first place in the AL. Might be a little bit of a fever dream for him, but he comes back in AAA. First game has a double. I said 105 miles per hour off the bat. Hits a home run in his second game in AAA. So you saw some signs there. It is AAA pitching. I get that, but you want to see the ball skills. You want to see the contact ability, and that was definitely on display for George Springer. Maybe the first game wasn't exactly what you wanted to see. Did go 1 for 4, the infield hit. George Springer continuing to hustle every single time he hits the baseball. Yeah, continuing to just prove a lot of people wrong. And like you said, it's a little bit scary, especially when guys like Springer, guys like Varsho, especially Springer being age 35 and taking that little bit of a break when he was in one of the best stretches of a season, comes back and doesn't necessarily look like he's missed too much of a beat. So that's a very positive sign for the Toronto Blue Jays. I wanted to circle back just quickly to Jose Berrios, and just one of the reasons why I think it's not necessarily going that well. And it just seems like he's not missing bats, like really at all, but the sinker and the slurve. It seems like the slurve's backing up quite often. Yeah. It seems like the sinker is just over the last little stretch, and this is a tough comparison, but when Jose Berrios threw his 4-seam fastball, when he had his horrific year in what was that, 2023, when he was absolutely horrific and just could not throw 4-seam fastballs because it get launched every single time. It almost feels like a little bit like that with the sinker. It's not nearly as bad as that because he's still having decent outings, it seems like every other game at this point. But the changeup seems like the only effective pitch for Jose Berrios. So maybe it is that Phantom IL stint to get him prepared, give him maybe that little bit of extra rest, because it could be some arm fatigue for Jose Berrios, a guy that's never missed a start, a guy that's thrown, 175-ish innings every single year for the last, 48 years is what it feels like. But yeah, there might be some rest issues there with Jose Berrios. Maybe not the worst idea to give him a break before the playoffs.
I don't know if it's a Phantom IL thing. I think this might be one of those guys that wouldn't hurt from the 6-man starting rotation. Again, a guy that could maybe just sit out a start. I don't think it has to be a 4 or 5 start thing that you miss, or 3 or 4 start miss. I think it could just be hey, we'll give you a break this round, and we'll go with 5, and then we'll get you back in the following time. but something is going to have to happen, and Jose Berrios is going to have to figure it out if he wants to get one of those starting jobs in the playoffs. Carter, my man, anything else from this last game? There wasn't a ton to take away, but there was some. Obviously, Louis Varland does get sort of pieced up again for his second outing in a row. I think that, again, I'm not overly worried because I've seen what he can do, but it's never not at all concerning, I guess.
Yeah, you don't want your pitcher to blow up, especially a guy that you want to throw in high leverage situations. Just the command didn't really seem to be there. When he gave up that home run ball, looked like it was right down the middle, and that's not a good recipe for success for any baseball team. But just in this game, didn't really feel like the Toronto Blue Jays had too much of a pulse. Nathan Eovaldi, again, very good pitcher. Vladdy kind of has his number, though, as they displayed on the broadcast. So in the event that the Texas Rangers somehow do the all-time turnaround, even though they bought at the trade deadline and now all of a sudden are the worst team ever, it seems like they just can't seem to hit baseballs. Imagine, by the way, just doing that, buying at the trade deadline and then just sucking. Like, that would be my biggest nightmare of all time, where you're giving away assets and then you just don't make the playoffs as well. That's not a very fun scenario. But yeah, it's always a fun time when you're winning a series against the Texas Rangers, where you go on a run, you go 4-2 against the Cubs and the Rangers, and you keep yourself in a good spot in the American League. Yeah, Louis Varland, not too worried about that whatsoever. Other than that, one thing that's just like, I have no factual basis to back this up, but I would love for somebody to dive into this. Maybe I'll have to dive into this as well. Brayden Fisher, whenever he comes in high leverage, it seems like he is the greatest pitcher of all time. But you throw this guy in like a 6-1 baseball game, he's giving up a run, I feel like, every single time. This guy needs to have the pressure on him. He needs to feel like what he's doing actually matters for his team. Like, if he's going to go out in a 6-1 game, he's like, well, I don't care. Like, we're not going to win this game anyway. We're already out of it. But if he goes in, and they're up 4-3, and maybe it's the 8th inning, he's like, okay, well, I got to, kind of assert my dominance here and get a 0 for my ball club.
Some guys just work better under pressure. That really is it. It's a non-statistical thing. It is just, when the lights are very bright, does this guy show up? And some guys need it. They need that feeling of game's on the line and it's on me to pitch well. Otherwise, sometimes it's like, yeah, it's that feeling of, well, this game's over anyway. I'm just going in here to save my stats, I guess. And that's no fun as a pitcher. It's hard. It's a mentality thing. And I think you want to be able to go in both and do both. But you know what? I would rather have it that way than the other way, Carter, where you go in a close ball game and you can't do anything, but, there's low leverage and nothing's going on, so I'll pitch well. No, that's criminal. So,
and that might not even be true. It's just, that's what my eyes and just the feel of a lot of these baseball games are telling me. But again, when you have a million guys that you can throw in high leverage, maybe you can't throw Brayden Fisher every single time in high leverage. Maybe you just got to figure out, just relax out there, have a little bit more fun, and, just get the guys out to keep his stats looking good for eventually when he's going to want to sign a contract, obviously farther down the road. That's a way bigger conversation, but that's pretty much my wrap up, at least for this weekend series. One very nice thing now is the Toronto Blue Jays schedule gets a lot softer, at least for the next 3 series. We'll kind of dive into that, but we'll go into this next series, previewing it right here on Locked On Blue Jays.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. You guys know how much I love FanDuel. Sports betting, when it gets around the football season, hockey's back in full swing. There's so much to bet on, and it's so much fun. Me and the boys, we hang around. We all throw bets out to each other. We're like, hey, everybody give one bet for the day, and we'll all go in on it together. FanDuel's the best spot, too. That gives you so many options. August 25th is officially FanDuel Features Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions, whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot divisional winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before Week 1 even kicks off. This is your moment. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bet now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Ooh, Carter, this is going to... I don't want to say it's going to be an interesting series. It's going to be an interesting Game 1. Game 1 is going to be electric, and if you are a baseball fan, you're probably going to be wanting to tune in for this one. Paul Skeens on the mound against the Toronto Blue Jays.
I'm terrified. I'm terrified. I'll say it right now. I'm not. I am excited, like as a baseball fan, but Paul Skeens is really good. He had a very good chance of winning the NL Cy Young once again, and that's why when you like look at a series like the Pittsburgh Pirates, that you see them, rolling into town, or I guess in this case, Toronto Blue Jays are going to Pittsburgh. But you have them on the schedule, like, oh, well, this should be the easiest series win of all time. But then you look at the pitching, and you see Paul Skeens in that first game, and Mitch Keller, another guy who can give you some pretty good pitching. We talked about him, obviously, as being a possible deadline acquisition for this ball club. So these guys, like Mitch Keller is not a bum. This guy can go out there and be effective. Paul Skeens, in a little bit of a different world, obviously. But, yeah, it's a tough start for a series where, like I just said, the schedule looks softer on paper, but then you go look at it and you see Paul Skeens game one. Not exactly ideal. But just to go into all of the pitching matchups throughout this series, you got Kevin Gausman, Paul Skeens for that game one. That one will be a lot of fun. Then you got Max Scherzer versus Mitch Keller, and then the Blue Jays will have Chris Bassitt. It says to be determined for me for the Pittsburgh Pirates, so that should be a game where hopefully you can take advantage of some, maybe some subpar is the way I'll put it, starting pitching. So if you can split the first two games, like I would love for them to beat Paul Skeens. I don't know how confident I necessarily am. This Toronto Blue Jays team has hit good pitching. Like they got to Evaldi, not really, I guess. Jacob deGrom they had as well. So they're definitely used to the good pitching. They're definitely used to some of the velocity that they're going to be seeing. But with Paul Skeens, sitting 98, 99, touching 100, touching 101, maybe it's a little bit of a different beast. But for me, I'm not going to give them the Paul Skeens game, unfortunately. But I do have them winning the series. I think they are unable to get to Paul Skeens, and they win this next two games. So they take the series 2-1 against Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah, I got 2-1 as well, and it's hard for me to say that they're going to beat Skeens. It's really hard because he is so good. And I think the saddest thing when it comes to Paul Skeens is he has a 7-9 record, and his ERA is 2.13.
Well, that's the thing. They might lose that game, but if they lose, it's going to be like 2-1. The Pirates aren't going to score runs. It's just going to be an absolute pitching duel.
It's the worst thing. Like I get why this is in place, and I get it's sort of the Mike Trout effect to an extent. Mike Trout, for me, he is the best baseball player, maybe of all time, but of our generation, he is the best baseball player. Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, okay, there's comparisons. But the biggest downfall to that era of the MLB is that Mike Trout has never won a World Series. And that hurts me so badly because, he's a guy growing up when, you hit a ball to the moon in wiffle ball. That's who you're pretending to be as a kid, is Mike Trout. Maybe not for everybody, but, everybody calls him the best player of all time. He's got just the raw attributes to be the best baseball player of all time, but no ring. And will always be a conversation. So just tough. And hopefully, Paul Skeens doesn't go through that his entire career either.
Yeah, the best player of all time things, maybe a little bit bigger of a conversation. Definitely a very good baseball player, 5-tool baseball player, maybe all around. But I'll save that maybe for another day. But luckily for Paul Skeens, this guy's 23 years old. He's not, going into his 30s. And there's already rumors about him being traded from the Pirates because the Pirates have been rebuilding, it seems like, for the last 10 years. So at this point, it doesn't look like it's getting too much better because they have literally zero offensive capabilities throughout that lineup. But when you're looking at Paul Skeens and you're looking at the Pirates organization, if you don't think you can win with Paul Skeens before you have to pay him the millions of dollars that you're going to have to pay him, whether he gets to the open market or not, you might as well get a boatload of prospects. Try to, at least fast forward that rebuild a little bit. As much as it would suck to lose Paul Skeens and get rid of him, imagine what kind of haul you could get back for a pitcher that has multiple years of control left and is already, in contention for being in the Cy Young pretty much every single year and in contention to be one of the best pitchers, of the 2020s going into the 2030s.
Yeah, he's going to be one of those guys. And I know this just ends up being a segment of us glazing Paul Skeens, but he is so good and so fun to watch. He's going to be the guy that kids now talk about, like the Max Scherzers and the Clayton Kershaws, the DeGroms from, when we were playing ball and growing up, right? So it's sort of wild. You're starting to see those guys turn over and who the next guys are going to be. And Paul Skeens is definitely going to be one of them. So it should be a very fun series. Carter, my man, I think we got to, call this episode. I mean, you look exhausted. We've had a crazy weekend, a crazy last week, to be honest. We had 6 baseball games in 4 days. We had a huge golf tournament. that neither one of us were in contention to win very late in that day, but it was a ton of fun. Shout out to all of our friends that came out. 24 of our friends all playing in a 2-man scramble. Shout out Conrad Smitty. Smitty wins his 3rd championship. I guess
the dynasty.
It almost is 3 championships in 5 years for Smitty is just wild. So shout out him, huge Blue Jays fan as well.
You're lucky that you just had your birthday. I can't believe you're grouping my group into what you did, on that golf course this weekend. Not the greatest scenes for Brayden Nowalsko out there.
It wasn't that bad. If you were playing with us, it wasn't that bad. We went +7 in a 2-man scramble. Not what you want to do, but we just couldn't get those like 10-foot putts to drop that you need to secure a couple birdies. It was right there though. We were a couple drop putts away from being at least back in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, shoulda, woulda, coulda. A lot of talk, unfortunately, from Brayden Nowalsko. No pictures on the scorecard. The scorecard doesn't necessarily say what you're saying on this podcast. But I just got a couple more things, just some kind of all over the place a little bit, but I think that I want to throw this in. We were, again, kind of the glazing Paul Skeens segment, so I'm going to, backtrack a little bit, just looking at his last start. This was against the Brewers, so again, take that with what you will, but went 4 innings, gave up 4 earned runs, 2 moonballs, 6 hits. So, maybe he's, starting to falter a little bit, and
worst outing of the season.
That negative energy into the Toronto Blue Jays, game at PNC Park. But a couple more things that I want to go into here. Just a bad day for the Torpedo Bats. The tweet from Ben Nicholson-Smith. Myles Straw hit 2 home runs when he switched away from the Torpedo Bat. So that's, while were the people out there saying the Torpedo Bats were cheating earlier in the offseason, or earlier in the season when the Yankees hit like 8 home runs in the same game. Just want to say congrats to John Schneider for 282 wins, and he moves into the 4th spot all time in franchise history for wins as a Toronto Blue Jays manager. And this is how I do want to end the segment, circling all the way back to the highlight of the weekend for me. And it's a quote from Chris Bassitt on Alejandro Kirk's stolen base. He says he's catching Ricky Henderson slowly. I think he's just got to play a little bit longer. And that's what I'm going to leave the people with. Love that quote from Chris Bassitt.
Have a good one, everybody. Take it easy. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Tell us what you think about Kirk's stolen base. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.